are going to talk about, well, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic that I am currently walking through and being challenged with. I think that this is a very befitting topic to share with you because I recently have been shown a very enlightened perspective and ways to heal from it. And if anybody is struggling with this, or if you have found how this has been destructive in your own life, how you have found how this has been destructive in your health, if you have found this particular topic that I'm getting ready to talk about, if you found this to be destructive in your relationships, if you have found that this particular topic has been destructive in your finances, yes, this topic is for you. So what am I getting ready to talk about? The subject of the topic is pride. I know. So hear me out, because this is going to be really, really good. So there's many different definitions of pride, and not all pride is a bad thing, right? So let me, because I have a teaching background, and because I like to give definitions, because I just do. And so the first definition of pride that I looked up, and it says, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievement, right? We've all experienced that. I can remember having our first child, and I remember thinking like, wow, like just feeling a sense of joy and delight and exhaustion. But you know, that's beside the point. And so we have another definition of pride is a person or thing that arouses a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction. I'm not talking about that today. What I'm talking about today is pride that's of destruction. And I have a couple of synonyms to help break down further what I'm getting ready to dive further into. So synonyms for pride: self-esteem, dignity, honor, self-respect, ego, self-worth, self-image, self-identity, self-regard. You get the gist of it, right? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having self-esteem. I have on this dress because I wanted to look a certain way, and that was a sense of esteeming myself because I liked how I look, right? That's a part of how we view ourselves, our self-image, right? There's nothing wrong with that. How it can get in the way is having pride stem from a place of wounds, stem from a place of fear, stem from a place of heavy defense. And I'm getting ready to break this down. This is how pride can really, have really got in my way. And it started when I was younger. Being a girl, growing up in my environment based off of what they told me, you know, when you're a little girl, so you got to make sure people don't run over you. You got to make sure you respect yourself. You got to make sure that you know, nobody talks to you a certain way, and if they talk to you, you just make sure that you. So there was a lot of different rules that I remember having coming out the gate, and I understood that this particular loved one shared this because their experience, they had experiences in their life where they felt abused, when they felt ran over, when they felt neglected, or even they saw maybe someone else in their family where they were taken advantage of, and they looked at that particular family member and said, I'm going to make sure that that never happens to me. Does that sound familiar? I can remember saying that to myself when I was younger, just being so afraid of life and relationships and just showing up as a girl. Can I be honest? And I remember those things playing in my mind, like, I got to make sure that I'm not going to get ran over. I got to make sure that that my self-worth is known. I got to make sure nobody runs over me. I got to make sure. Do you feel that energy? That was a thing that I had going on in the background of my mind. And then I think about some of the places and environment that I was in where I didn't feel safe. And so that sense of defense came to the forefront. And I remember creating this wall around myself to protect myself. And I remember not being like myself. I remember taking on the identity and the stories of make sure you're not taken advantage of. Make sure you say this when a person says, if they say something, make sure you say this back. Make sure you remember your self-worth. And so all of that was just created such a place of fear within me because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe. Imagining waking up, right? Maybe going to school, or, you know, going in the hallway, and you feel that you might see that particular person who maybe might talk about you, and you feel that sense of like being scared or your heart palpitating. And so your sense of defense is either be defensive, verbally, make sure you say something back to them, or make sure the sense of I have to protect myself. A sense of self-dignity, a sense of self-worth. You're not going to run over me. Those are experiences that we have to revisit. Because if you are like me, those same stories, those same agreements, those same beliefs showed up as myself. I thought that was my sense of identity, but it wasn't my true identity. And I created from that sense of pride, there was also a level of lack of trust. There was also, and so if I didn't trust people, I also didn't trust myself. Because if you don't trust, you don't allow yourself to trust yourself because you feel afraid and you don't feel safe. And so I had to heal those wounds within myself, because you know why? I was creating my own destruction. Whenever I was in need of something, because I didn't feel safe, there was a level of don't say anything, don't ask anybody for anything, based out of my experiences. And I carried those experiences into my adulthood, and those experiences and those beliefs showed up in my relationship. Those experiences and those beliefs showed up in my finances because I was prideful in that. Those experiences and those beliefs showed up in my pride, in a sense of too prideful to relax, too prideful to even sit with myself and take care of myself. That wasn't even a part of my radar. I was on such a heavy survival mode and just being afraid. So it showed up as pride. But if you're still listening to me, the underlayer of that pride was fear. I didn't feel safe. So there's nothing wrong with having self-image, dignity, honor. But when it comes from a place of fear, when it comes from a place where you are biting somebody off the head before they even get anything edgewise, when it comes from a place of where your pride comes in, where you won't even open up your heart because of those stories that are playing in your mind. And see, the trick of the reptilian part of our brain that's so used to protecting, it's made to protect ourselves and to keep us in survival mode, right? You can do some research on that. And what ends up happening too, the trick part of our brain is that when we operate out of that defense, fight, pride, pride rooted in fear, you're not gonna run over me. I'm gonna make sure this doesn't happen. I'm not about to ask you for nothing because I'm gonna make sure that I got my stuff together, right? Pride. And so when we're acting like that, that part of our brain gives us this sense of, it's a feel-good emotion. It's a feel-good chemical that says, yes, we're doing a good job because we're protecting ourselves. But it's an overdrive, because in truth, what ends up, it's like you end up staying in the state of survival mode. So as you end up staying in a state of survival mode, you don't come to a higher level within yourself where you drop that weight. That's heavy. And I found out that as I dropped that weight, I recognized the reason why I chose to drop it, and I continue to choose to drop it, is because I was creating my own destruction in my life. Too afraid to fully love. I was too prideful of that because of my experiences, because of other people's beliefs, because of my just that pride, that hard pride that stepped in. Didn't allow my perspective of money came from a place of I'm going to make sure I don't ask anybody for anything. I'm going to make sure that I show them this. I'm going to make sure that I don't ever be in a position where I don't have to ask anybody for anything. That's pride. And that's too much pride, and it gets in the way. And I have fooled myself and lived in so much fear and in that survival mode and wasn't even aware that I was in that, I was creating. I was aware that I was in it, but I wasn't aware that I was creating my own destruction until I had my own fall, until I recognized the destruction in my life was because of my pride, because of my fears, because of my beliefs. And if you are there in a place in your life where you are reflecting back on, thinking about how those beliefs and what I've shared with you in the earlier video, how those beliefs, where those chains of beliefs came from, and based out of those beliefs, how it has created this sense of pride within you, where you recognize and you know, I don't need to tell you, in your heart where in your life how pride has been the fall of destruction for you. I remember for so long running my own rat race, believing my own pride. And what ends up happening is that you live in this state of, I believe grace is unlimited, right? We live and when I think of the reason why I say that is because even though I was a kind person, still am, that I'm genuinely a good person, that did not negate the fact that underneath those qualities I had pride to the point where it was my own destruction. And I recognize that pride of self-dignity and self-worth, that the underlayer of self-dignity and self-worth was rooted in fear, was rooted from the experiences of my grandmother feeling that she couldn't trust, and passing down that same belief of you make sure that you don't get ran over. So that belief got passed down to my mom, and that belief got passed down to me. And so there was a level of identity that was building, do you get what I'm saying, over time. And so that was who I thought I was until I had my encounter with God. Until I had my encounter with God, when I had my own breaking in my life. And I recognized that what I was producing in my life was chaos, was trouble, was anguish, was just this heavy defense, and because of those walls, because of that pride, because of all of that, just producing dead fruit. But pride will have you thinking, oh, well, I'm a good person. Yeah, but you still got pride. And it really wasn't until I allowed God to search my heart, and at the deep seat of my heart, there was a level of pride that I had at the deep part of my heart. And that's when God showed me, you're afraid to let go because of your pride. And because of your pride is stemmed from the wounds and the experiences from your past, the wounds and the experiences and the identity from the lineage of your family that got passed down to you. Because your maybe one of your loved ones may have felt abused, right? And so there was a level of hardness that happened in their heart, and they never let anybody in. So that's a sense of pride. And I get it, and I understand it. But it's good to go back and heal those wounds, because it's not the truth of who we are. We're showing up with these different labels, and we, social media does a really, really good job, and the world system does a really, really good job talking about power and fortitude. That's not true power. Having that sense of pride is not true power. And if you have children or just people in your lives, you are showing up as that. Your energy is showing up as that. I know you're a good person. I'm a good person. But I also had those wounds that I was showing up as. And I'm just even reminded of the story of David and the book in the Bible. It talked about creating me a clean heart and just renewing me the right spirit, right? There's a lot of garbage and things that can be implanted in your mind and in your spirit and in your soul, and it can start from a child, and we're showing, based out of our experiences, we're carrying that baggage, carrying that internal weight. So I want to just address to those who are tired of pride being the leader of their life. You have to, one, recognize that you have the power to choose. The power to choose to release and let that go. When you recognize that it is is causing destruction in your own life. When you recognize that you have fooled yourself. When you recognize the power and the sovereignty that you truly do have, you don't need to hold on to that stuff. Because once you release that pride, in exchange for that is trust. Once you release that pride, there's a level of ease that you have. It doesn't mean that you will never stand in your truth. It doesn't mean that you won't get angry. And it doesn't even mean that you will never have moments where you feel triggered. I was just triggered a couple of days ago. But once you surrender and let go, and as you recognize, being aware is everything. Being self-aware. Being self-aware. We know when we are lying to ourselves. I'm going to say that again. We know at the depths of us when we are lying to ourselves, when we are fronting, when we are high-fiving, talking about mess, talking about gossip, what we not going to take, popping off at the mouth. We know at the deep seat of us, the soul of us, if we are aware, something's not right there. I don't feel settled showing up as that. I don't want to show up as that anymore. And it doesn't even matter. For me, my story, I had to recognize that I have to free myself. I remember one of my loved ones had asked me, well, how do I remove my pride when someone else that I love deeply is prideful? And the answer that I shared with them was, you cannot base your freedom in someone else's hand. If you are struggling with pride within yourself and you recognize how it's causing destruction in your own life, it's your job to stand in your own sovereignty, and you make the choice. You make the choice to shift and change your life, because it's about you. It's about how you want to show up. Once again, it's about how you want to show up. You can create healthy boundaries, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But showing up in truth and releasing that old identity, or your mother's wounds, or your grandmother's wounds, or your grandfather's wounds, or what you experienced, what you saw in society, or what you may have seen in social media. Releasing all those agreements, those negative agreements, and showing up as your true and divine light. So I really hope that this helps you. I really, really hope that this helps you. Pray that this saturates you at night. I pray that in your subconscious mind that things would be shifted as I'm speaking right now. I pray that you will become self-aware and aware of the knowledge and truth that's already within you, and that you will bear good fruit and not dead fruit. This isn't about anybody else but you, and you hold that power. That's all I got. If you guys want to hear any more topics, any topics that you want me to talk about, one, I'll go ahead and leave the description at the bottom how you can reach me, or you can put any comments or questions at the bottom. That's all I